All right, we are live. Chewing the Fat is back after a week off for some little thing called the called
Yeah.
WrestleMania, which Jim got some work out of it, so it's a beautiful thing. And we're going to hang out for this is the marathon interview show, Jim.
Not tonight.
Come on, I know
It's
you can go longer than three.
it's already past my bedtime.
We'll see. We'll see. You might be having too much fun. You won't want to leave.
Eh,
Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome to the show. Not only is he a Tri State Wrestling Alliance original, he is an ECW original, he is a 30 plus year friend of mine. And as I said to him before we went live, I'm going to learn so much stuff about him tonight that I have no idea about. But he's also probably one of the only referees that had to make a decision by the flip of a coin.
oh yeah, I did do that, didn't I?
Welcome to the show, the one and only Mr. Jim Molineaux. What's going on, brother?
Not much. How you doing? I'm having a ball already. We've been bullshitting for 5 minutes and haven't stopped laughing yet.
I mean, come on. Stevie Wonderful went almost 5 fucking hours on this show.
I don't have that. I don't have that many stories or that much anger. Whatever it is.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I did therapy for 10 years. That was deep. I love Steve, but it was deep, man. It was very deep. I don't think we're going to have anything like that tonight, though.
No.
No. Although the wrestling business has done us all a little harm, and we could probably use some more therapy over it. But hey,
Yeah, depends on what people call you or text you while we're doing this interview and saying bullshit or something.
let me check. Did anybody? Nope, we're good. Nobody yet. But it's early. We're just saying our hellos. So, I'm going to start all the way in the beginning, Jim, because I don't know this stuff about you. We were just talking about Jim's. I said Sammy Hagar hair, but he said it was more Ian Hunter inspired. But all right, when did you discover the world of professional wrestling? I know you're a major music guy.
Yeah, I'm pre-teen years, young kid. Grew up in South Jersey.
Okay.
Haddon Township specifically. And dad would come in. My dad was a weekend warrior. He was a house painter by trade, but a weekend warrior, like we all were.
Sure.
Basically, tri-state, we were weekend warriors, and
right.
Grew from there. But he raced motorcycles.
Oh, okay.
And it was an enduro team, so you race through the woods, and a lot of the guys didn't have garages or apartments, so all the bikes were at our house. So on the weekend, there were a bunch of men tuning up and working on their motorcycles in our garage. But at 11 o'clock in the morning, my dad would come in and kick back the lazy boy and watch WWF. So I grew up with Bob Backlund as the champion, and Tito Santana and Dean. I always say Dean Ho because nobody remembers him. He was great. And Jay Strongbow and all the Samoans, all those guys. That was the era that I grew up with wrestling.
That's awesome. I don't think I've ever seen a Dean Ho match.
Dean Ho teamed with Tony Garea for quite a while.
Was it? For some reason I was going to say Steamboat, but it was Garea.
Yeah, it was Garea here. He may have teamed up with him elsewhere, but because Steamboat was never here in the Northeast.
Right. Wow. So,
and there are guys from many years before you started watching, because I'm significantly older than most people from ECW.
Yeah, I started watching it probably was around 81.
Yeah, I'm talking mid 70s.
Okay.
Actually, probably even earlier, because what distracted me from wrestling was the Flyers winning the Stanley Cup.
It's funny because there's a huge most people I found who are wrestling fans or in the business are big hockey fans.
Yeah, there are a lot of us. But yeah, that was what took me away from wrestling, or watching wrestling, was now on the weekend everybody was out on the street playing hockey. We were the next Bobby Clark, next Bernie Perrant. Bernie Perrant became my hero.
Did you play goalie or?
Definitely. I was a goalie.
Yeah, me too.
That way I didn't have to run around. If the fat kid, put the fat kid in the net.
Did you have your Milek street pad? Yeah, absolutely.
The Milek street pads. The big Christmas was when I got a Cooper glove and waffle board set. I was like, oh my God.
When I got my European goalie mask, I was like, that's it. It was like the greatest thing ever happened.
Well, see, I had to get when I first started, they only had the small Milek,
right?
Tony Esposito mask.
Yeah.
And when they finally came out with the full front of your head, Bernie Perrant style mask, it was like, I just painted the thing up like Bernie.
That's awesome.
Or just a couple flyer symbols.
So you didn't want to be like your dad's racing motorcycles. You didn't want to be like Evel Knievel?
Oh yeah, I was riding up down the street with my bicycle, hopping over logs and homemade ramps and all that kind of stuff. But my dad never let me ride.
Really?
Yeah, no, because he never rode in the streets. He would take the bike out on the street to give it a test after he worked on it.
Okay.
But you rode in the woods? No, not on the
really?
street. Yeah, too
That's
dangerous.
Interesting.
Too dangerous.
Huh.
And a couple of times that he did take me out in the woods with a couple of friends of his, something always happened to the bike that I had, and I was always get blamed for it for breaking broke the timing chain or something. The gearbox, it was always my fault because I didn't know what I was doing. But if you let me ride on the street, I didn't know what I was doing.
That's funny. So, about how long in then did you start, like, as you becoming a fan and growing up, and like around what age do you think you just thought to yourself, hey, maybe I should go into this business?
28.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't get into business till I was 28.
Okay. So now that's like, stories like that are wild to me. Like I remember, when I was in Ringmasters, when Hack started, he was 29.
Right.
So, like, what makes you at 28 years old? 'Cause I'm sure you were married at the time.
Yeah, married, had both my kids. My daughter was 1.5, 2, 1.5. And my son was 7. So, I had family, had to work, regular 9-to-5 job, decent warehouse job at RCA. And one of the guys that I worked with said, we started talking because I was back watching it. The NWA was now on cable TV for me, and I could see different things, and we would talk about it all day. And they were talking about the Great American Bash coming to Philadelphia.
Okay.
And we were like, hey, let's go. And I'd never been to a show. I'd never been to a live show until the Great American Bash 1987.
Whoa.
That was the first live show I ever saw.
Was that the one at the Vet?
No, the year after. 86 was the Vet.
Okay.
It was the year after at the Civic Center. I'm pretty sure the main event was Nikita and Magnum.
Okay.
Because there was a double bull rope match between Dusty and Ron Garvin against Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard. And I took my camera and I just went snap, snap. And if you take the two pictures and put them together, they fit perfectly. It's like a wide shot by putting them together. But yeah, that was the first time I never went as a kid. Like you said, my dad was a house painter and he made good money, but it was very tight.
Sure.
And so we always saved for our vacation. And we would do a summer vacation every other year. We would drive to California.
Whoa.
Because my mom had family out there. My aunt and uncle lived out there for years. In fact, they just left there they moved there in 1964. that was the last place my uncle was stationed in the Navy. So they were there from '64 until last year. They moved to Tennessee.
Whoa!
But we would go every other summer, and go to do all the attractions, because Florida wasn't set up yet.
Right. Huh. So okay, well, rewind just a tad. Growing up, who was your favorite wrestlers as a kid?
Tito Santana, Dean Ho. The younger guys, younger versions of what today would be the high flyers.
Gotcha.
They didn't fly as high as they do now, but they were the young, fast guys. They weren't punching and kicking and stomping. They were trying to up and overs and
yeah
all that kind of stuff.
So okay, you're 28 years old, and how do you end up deciding? All right, I want to do this now.
Okay, so we go to the show, and one of the ring announcers was Joel Goodhart, and
okay,
and talked about the radio, mentioned the radio show when he was cutting, when he was doing the intros. And mentioned the radio show and mentioned the fan club, and it's like, that sounds cool. So listened to the radio show and joined the fan club and did a lot of the fan. And my buddy didn't follow through.
Okay.
I did a lot of the fan club stuff. I was going to the matches by myself and just meeting up with fan club people, and just finally got to the point where I thought, I can do this. I was the smart ass in school. I was kind of a wise guy, and I was like, I wanted to be a manager. I wanted to be Jim Cornette. I wanted to be Bobby Heenan. So I came up with a character. I went to a no-name school.
Okay.
It probably even wasn't really a school. But it was just guys training, and I came up with a character and worked with. That was where I first. Well, in the fan club was where I first met Jimmy Giannetti.
I was going to say, didn't you? Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't like one of Giannetti's first matches you managed him? He was like 16 years old or something.
Yeah, my character was the extravagant Jimmy Fortune. and had my wife made me some sequin suits and tie-dyed an old suit jacket and things like that, and came out with a briefcase, and I managed Giannetti, and what my goal was that if I were able to set up a stable, I was going to call them the Agents of Fortune for Jimmy Fortune, but I stole it from a Blue Oyster Cult album. We were talking about music earlier.
Yeah.
Before we came on air, I'm a huge Cult fan, and one of their albums was Agents of Fortune. So I was like, my stable's going to be called the Agents of Fortune.
Good, yeah.
And that was the first step into it. And still going to the fan luncheons and the shows and all that kind of stuff. And so I finally after 4 or 5 shows under my belt, I
got to ask before you even get into that. How do you approach your wife at this point and say, I want to get into the wrestling business? I mean, that must have been a hell of a conversation.
Well, yeah.
Was she a fan of the business, or?
Oh no, she hated it. Never watched it. Still to the day hates it, and for various different reasons. But yeah, no. The conversation was when I was still playing in a ball hockey league, outdoor ball hockey league. So I was like, well, I'm going to stop playing ball hockey and I'll do this, and it's only going to be on the weekends, and it's not going to be every weekend,
Right.
And so it was, switching one from one to the other.
Okay.
Basically. And she was like, okay. But then, so I finally approached Joel. I gave him a call and said, hey, I have a manager gimmick. And he was already running TWA shows.
Okay.
By this point, I had gone to a couple, even did security for one of the shows at Temple.
He actually called me yesterday. He's like, I can't wait for Molineaux's interview tomorrow night.
Well, go to bed now because it's going to be extremely disappointing. So I called him and said, hey, I do this manager gimmick, and could you use me? No, I've got Nancy and I've got Donnie Allen and had Luna. I really don't need a manager, but I could use a third referee, and sold me on being a referee and being at every show, and how much it was going to cost, and he actually said, you will make back in a year what you paid for your school.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And to his word, he did. I did.
That was the big selling point too. Like before I was on the fence, like, do I go to Monster Factory or do I go to Joel? And then Joel said, look, here's the tuition. It was, I think, $2,200 or $2,400 at the time or whatever. He said, you make your payments, blah, 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 but you will make back your money on the shows to pay off your tuition. I was like, and Larry did not make that offer.
Actually, Joel had taken me before he had a school to the Monster Factory. We were going to visit, and I was going to ask about the Monster Factory then. And we went the night that we went, they were closed.
Okay.
And we never went back. And I was like, well, you've got a school now. Let me try that.
I remember still to this day your first night. I remember you coming in there. I remember standing in the ring and Finnegan was there and Joel and I remember like crystal clear.
I wish I could.
Being introduced to you, and I for some reason like that moment stuck out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all a blur to me.
Yeah.
Most of it is, and not because I partook of anything I shouldn't have. So he gave me the pitch, and he said at the end, he goes, it's I think for a referee it was $1,400.
Okay.
So he said, think about it for a week and give me a call, or think about it for a couple of weeks, give me a call. So I hung up, thought about it, went downstairs, talked to my wife. Knew I could get the money, not a problem. I had it. Like I said, I was working for RCA, so I had a 401k that was pretty good.
Okay.
So, hey, hon, is it okay if I take the money out of the 401k? Okay. So I called it back 10 minutes later and said, I'll see you Tuesday with the money, and was there the next week at Ringmasters.
Wow.
And that was how it started.
That's wild.
My thought process was, all right, I'm in, I'm on. That's all I wanted. I didn't want to be the star of the TV show. Growing up, I wanted to be an actor, wanted to be on television. I wasn't the star of the TV show. I wasn't Dick Van Dyke, but I could be Maury Amsterdam.
Right. Well, I mean, what Joel had and the whole TWA thing, I mean, let's face it, there was a huge buzz in the industry going on about what he was doing.
Yeah, because it was in national magazines.
Yeah.
So you knew, well, this is something. It's different than the independent show that came to your high school maybe once a year, or came into the area every couple of months. What was
your first match that you reffed?
Jimmy Janetti against Glenn Osborne at Westchester Rec Center.
Yeah.
I know it was October. I'm not sure of the exact date. I want to say it was like the 22nd or the 23rd. But it was a triple shot weekend, and that was the only show that I could do because the other two were in New Jersey, and my license stuff hadn't come through yet.
Oh.
So it was Westchester, Burlington. It was the Burlington County Tech School.
Okay.
And Trenton CYO. And I know that weekend we had Ivan Koloff in, we had Manny Fernandez in, we had Bam Bam in. I want to say there was maybe someone else. I can't remember, but I know, or maybe it was Wahoo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know they switched some of the matches around.
Those shows have gotten brought up in almost every interview that weekend of shows. Yeah, it was Wahoo. That's
But
funny.
yeah, that was the first step in the ring for me for that.
Did you think like at any point like before you had that first match like maybe I might not like this?
No, I don't think so. I felt real confident, um, which I think really helped a lot. Because as a wrestler, I'm sure you're scared to death in your first match, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so much going on in your head trying to remember. Although then we really didn't go over matches. You'd finish and call it in the ring,
Mm-hmm.
or it was a match that you've been doing for months at a school, so
Yeah.
you knew what you were doing. But no, I felt real confident in there and comfortable, and I was like, yeah, this is. I felt good. I can do this. I'm ready to, do another one. I only did one match that night.
Huh. Okay.
Just to get my feet, was just so you could see me get my feet wet and see
Right.
how I did. But yeah, no, I felt confident, ready to go. I don't think I've ever felt. I'm sure I felt uncomfortable. I never felt like I shouldn't be here.
It's weird. Like I always, and that goes for the original three, you, John, and Gigolo. Like I always had a very confident feeling about the threes.
Yeah.
I can't say that about other promotions I work for. Like like you guys were a true safety net. I always felt.
Yeah, that's really important as a referee to have that that feeling that the guys feel safe with us.
Yeah.
That we have that eyes in the back of our head to see if someone's coming out of the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
We know the match,
Mm-hmm.
so we know where you should be or what you should do, or if we realize that something's not quite right, maybe go to a rest hold and everybody get their thoughts together.
Yeah.
Things like that. Stay, follow you guys into the crowd. Not that we did a lot of that,
Right.
but we did with ECW. We were right there with those eyes in the back of our head.
Yeah.
For ECW. But yeah, no, I think that the guys being confident with us is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get that as much anymore because nobody really runs that territory feeling that TWA was.
Yeah.
I think like I just worked for Tommy Fierro the other night, ISPW, and I had taken some time off for an injury, and guys were great, happy to see me back, because they feel confident that I don't know who took my place while I was gone, but they were happy that I was back, and they oh good, you got my match. Nice. I love hearing that. Oh, you got my match, great.
What were some of the wild TWA matches you did?
Well, I did all three. I was part of all three matches the night of Cactus against Eddie Gilbert. I refereed the Pins Count Anywhere part match because there were three separate matches.
Yeah.
So the first one was Pins Count Anywhere in the building, so I got that one. Then the next one was the stretcher match, and I was on the outside with John to load Cactus on the stretcher.
Right.
Who was absolutely no help at all getting into the stretcher. Dare you to help me. And then the final one was the cage match, and I was the referee on the outside at the door.
Wow.
So they were probably the wildest for TWA. Oh no, how about the Sheik against Abby?
Ooh.
In the cage.
That match gave me nightmares.
You almost got me kicked out of the house. I was the referee who started the match before the Abby even made it to the ring. The Sheik nailed me from behind and sliced me open, zip, 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 all across from ear to ear. And I crawled out, and as I'm crawling out, Abby steps over me into the cage, And John followed him and did the match. And I'm trying to make my way down the ring. And if you remember, the aisleway was kind of off to the side in the corner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Spectacor, God bless them for all their help. I can't see a damn thing. I'm like, help me. And they're all backing off. No. No one wanted to touch me. And I got into the back and was able to clean up. And God bless him. He was in the locker room that I was, because they were separate, all kinds of like dressing rooms back there.
Yeah.
And Owen Hart was in the one I was in. He's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" He's like,
I was standing on
the referee.
I was standing on the stage with Owen Hart and Medusa, and they came up the stage, and we just ran for our lives and scattered. Like, it was just like, forget it.
But yeah, and so like, I cleaned up and I got bandaged up. It looked like the spirit of '76, and I put a hat on and went because everybody went to the bar.
Right.
And so I'm walking around with the brim like this, and you can't see anything up here covering it up. And so I got home, got changed, and my head hits the pillow and the light goes on.
Oh, no.
Shit. And she's, "Oh, my God. You've decided, so you've made the decision. It's not that bad. Don't worry about it." And I whip the gauze off, or whip the tape off, the wrap off, and I pull the gauze, and as I pull the gauze, the scab goes with the gauze.
Oh.
And I started gushing again.
Oh.
And I was like, "Wow, good night, I'm fucked." And I cleaned up and actually laid. My daughter was in the bed with my wife, and I just laid in her bed.
Wow. So, okay. Tri-State Wrestling Alliance, fast forward to January '92, getting ready for that big show, and the wrestling world is shocked as Goodhart pulls the plug unannounced to everybody. Did you have any idea, any inkling?
Absolutely not. I usually would get up on a Saturday morning and make breakfast for the kids and have the radio show on the radio. And for some reason, I slept in that week. I don't know why. And rolled over and turned it on, and I kind of pieced it together. Wait a minute, everything, we're done? That's it? Nothing more? No radio show? No nothing. Is completely gone. I was like, holy crap. So I actually called Joel.
That was my next, because I was one of like trying to call constantly, like.
So I called him and I left him a message, just how green I was still at the time. And I said, "What do you want me to do with these tickets that you gave me to try to sell? Do you need those back?" And I should have held on to them, because they'd be like a collector's item now.
I had mine for years. That's funny.
And I just threw them right in the trash, and then I was like, "Oh, I guess that's it. I guess I better call Larry and Dennis."
So, well, okay. So, is that what your like feelings? What was your feelings like? What do I do now? Where do I go?
Yeah.
Am I done? Or
and I was like, "Well, I guess I'm back to playing ball hockey." I didn't know what to do. I was like, maybe I should try. Like I said, maybe I should try Dennis and Larry. But is there heat because of
right,
working for the other company and all that kind of stuff? So.
Now, it was never like, I always thought there was like heat between
right.
I thought thought it was
I thought too.
A bitter like rivalry thing going on, and if you worked for one, you couldn't work for the other.
Right.
So,
right, that's what I thought too. So I was like, well, I don't know. I called John. He's like, I don't know what's going on either. And I had the feeling that John would look out for me, or at least try to help look out for me.
Sure.
Then he, eventually got the call from, I'm pretty sure I got the call from John, say, "Hang loose, something's brewing. I'll keep you in the loop."
Okay.
I was like, okay. And then, surprise, ECW
Were you when they called out, because they called a meeting at the skating rink where Bob works? Were you at the meeting, or?
I don't remember going to that. I don't think I did.
Okay. Yeah, there was a bunch of us there. I'm trying to remember who was all there. I couldn't remember if you were there. I think Finnegan was there.
I'm sure John seemed to be was pretty heavy in the loop as to what was going on.
Yeah. So, did you know Todd before any of that, or?
No.
Yeah.
And barely knew him in TWA other than to say hello and knew that he sat ringside.
I didn't even know that. I used to say when he would ring announce, I'd be like, "Why are they letting this guy ring announce? Who the hell's he?" So Joel's out, Todd's in. The birth of Eastern Championship Wrestling happens, and I've been very vocal about my feelings about the early ECW days. Like, I just wasn't a fan personally. Like, when Joel was running in TWA, like, it was a product that I was like hyped about and I was excited about, and I would pop like the fans, because I was a fan still. I was very, very green. When Todd took over, and even though it was still Larry doing the booking, and it was like a whole different, they were trying to go in a different direction and distance himself from the Joel product to the Todd product, and I just didn't like it. Like, what was your feelings? Did you notice the difference? Were you happy with things?
Yeah, I was okay with things, but I did notice a difference that some of the people weren't there. Why, I don't know. I never asked. It wasn't
Right.
my business. I was asked back. I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you felt there there was a little difference, and I think they needed to do that because everyone would make the comparison to TWA. Well, why don't you just call it TWA?
Yeah.
Because we were running the same, we ran the sports bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's easy to make the comparison right there.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it would have made sense. And they ran a bunch of the same old buildings that Joe ran in
Right.
those early days, Tabor Rams and stuff like that. Um, and then we were, the big pursuit of the TV deal and getting Sports Channel. Um,
Well, don't forget there was the other the other TV show that like was for like a 5-block radius in South Philly.
yeah, where they had the wicker chairs they would sit on. Yeah,
The Morticia Adams chair.
yeah. Yeah, that's I did initially forget about them until actually when Todd sent me a message about it one day. We were
Yeah.
talking about it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I forgot all about those." And they're on. Somebody put them up on YouTube, which is pretty scary. Oh, some of the things you find on the internet these days.
Oh yeah.
But then yeah, so we did the pilots and all that stuff, those tapings, and finally getting the TV deal. And then the big bomb gets dropped that Todd has hired Eddie Gilbert to be the booker. Were you a fan of Eddie's before he came in? Thoughts on Eddie?
I was a fan. I loved Memphis wrestling, so I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. But then I was like, well, why isn't Larry the booker anymore? What did Larry do?
Right.
And we were a lot, all of us were loyal to Larry because he trained us. He had something to do with our training. So it was a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but you understood, that we're moving up a level. So you need leadership that has that background. I don't think Larry booked at that level before. Maybe he worked at NWF. I don't know how much he was involved with the booking of it. So it was probably an obvious thing to do, whether it was Eddie or someone else that they could have brought in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like when Todd told me, I was like shocked, I was excited, and then I felt like, wow, this is like shit's getting real now. Like, this is not just like, all right, we're doing this. Like, we're doing this. This is no joke now.
Right.
When Eddie,
and you know what? Going back to an earlier question, that may have been the only time I was kind of uncomfortable. That with him coming in and bringing in talent from Memphis, they might get rid of me.
That question right there is going to be an ongoing question through this interview, because I mean, look, Eddie comes in, and we do the first set of tapings, and then we come back a few weeks later back at Cabrini, and you notice some people are starting to be missing.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the next set of tapings, more people are missing. So it's like, did you? I mean, everybody notices it. Did you think at some point, like, whoa, early on, like maybe I'm going to be out?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Especially after Joe was gone.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, could be very easily bring somebody, like you said, anybody from Memphis.
Right.
He brought in his friends. I mean, Paul wasn't from Memphis, but he knew Paul, and so there's someone's spot.
Mm-hmm.
Not a referee's, but there's someone's spot.
Right.
And it was still a territorial thing, the philosophy at the time. Bring in the new booker, and the booker brings his friends.
Yeah. I got my first Jim Molineaux text.
Uh-oh.
From Mr. Jimmy Giannetti. He must have missed it. He said, "Don't forget to ask him about the extravagant Jimmy Fortune." Laugh out loud. Too funny. So, yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, I was going, me and Pat HD Ryder, we were going after the second Cabrini tapings. And, you just saw each time
right.
more guys. And then it was, as I'm doing this whole rewatch, the history of it, and I'm seeing, like, I mean, let's face it, those early, especially those Cabrini tapings, were so bad. They were just so bad. And you're seeing now, I'm still like only 6 months in. They're getting ready for Ultra Clash '93, and the elevation of talent is tremendous.
Right.
Because it's mostly all named guys now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Pat. I just saw him a couple of months ago at Johnny Cashmere's show.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta reach out to him. It's funny. He's a guy who, whenever I talk to somebody, like even doing these interviews, they're like, "Oh, I just saw your old partner." He always just pops up at his show somewhere. Great.
It's funny, the guys who disappear forever and then all of a sudden they pop up.
Yeah. Well, you were 28 when you started. He was 35.
Wow, really? Wow.
He was about 35, and then when they teamed us up, because I was 22 at the time when they teamed us up, and he was like 35. Yeah. So it's like, whoa, okay, crazy. So Paul came in the second set of tapings and started helping out behind the scenes and all. What did you think once Eddie came in? Did you like working with Eddie, or?
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with Eddie at all. Like I said, I always had that fear in the back of my head because he's new and can bring somebody in at the drop of a hat.
Right.
Never had any problem with him. It was, his style was different than obviously Paul's.
Yeah.
Because Eddie would come in with, we were doing 3 weeks of TV at a time, and he would come in with a legal size paper,
mm-hmm.
Not a regular notepad, or legal size sheet, and had 3 weeks of TV written out, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember making any kind of changes unless somebody wasn't there.
Right.
But I think, here's what we're doing. That's it. No discussion.
Do you remember, I don't remember if it was the first or second set of tapings, Eddie just pulled us all in the locker room and just blasted us. How bad we were. We sucked. And if you don't straighten your act out, you're fired. You're out of here. Like I don't remember.
I don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah, I just remember being like, "Holy shit! Like we're fucked."
Yeah, different kind of talk from Paul's camp meetings.
Yeah, right. So when Eddie was out and then Paul took over, what was your feelings again? Like, did you have the same things going through your head again? Like, oh shit, here we go, another change.
Yeah, I thought, oh crap, another change, and I knew new guys were going to be coming in, but I felt pretty good because I was pretty. I felt I was settled with Paul. I knew him, and he'd been there for a while, so we were friendly with him. I think it was different because Eddie came out of the blue. We really
Yeah,
didn't know him. Where
yeah,
Paul had been there for a while, and we knew him. Um, so it kind of felt a little more comfortable, but still, again, in the back of my head, oh, the new guy could come in like that, and I'm gone.
right. How about comparing working for Eddie to Paul? Like, what do you think were like the major differences?
Oh, the preparation for the show itself.
Mm.
Like you said, Eddie came in with it written out, and that's what we're doing. Paul comes in and puts his stuff down and gets out a book and gets his pen and looks around the room and maybe he knew three or four things that had to be done,
Yeah,
um, and made sure those got done, and then fill holes around them.
yeah,
Okay, he's here, so let's have him go. Oh, well, that'd be good, Matt. And there were times, not right off the bat, but towards the end, where we maybe had a match, maybe had the first match, and said go start the show, and we had one or two matches, and he was still writing them down while the matches were starting.
that's wild.
So
Yeah,
it was
I mean,
definitely two different approaches, but they
yeah,
I thought the Eddie Gilbert version of ECW was fine. I was happy with it. It
yeah,
was Northeast. It was Philly's tribute to Memphis for wrestling.
totally. Yeah, it's like I'm at that point now where I'm like coming up on Ultra Clash, like I said, and it's like and it's funny. Like after I was done after those initial tapings, like I stopped watching it. So I to this day I've never seen this stuff. So I'm finally watching it for the first time, and I'm like I'm enjoying it. I'm like I mean this is now the product is good. It's very enjoyable.
Right? Yeah, I get it. After the WWE brought us in for that debacle, um, I never watched it. I
Hmm.
didn't. I didn't care to watch it.
Hmm. Well, we're gonna get into that. So all right. So Paul takes over. We get to the big point where Shane throws the belt down. Did you have any idea that was going to happen?
Absolutely not.
Oh my god. Okay,
I was
so
not prepared for that.
what are you? Because he had, I'm sure he had the monitor in the back at the time too, right?
Yeah. There was a monitor there. I mean,
Did
it was a little 12-inch,
yeah.
TV. Everybody's gathered around.
And so basically, probably most people didn't have an idea that was going to happen.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think 5 people knew, maybe.
Wow.
I think Shane, Todd, Paul, maybe Charlie. I'm thinking who was the camera crew at the time, whether Charlie and Ron were there yet or not.
Right.
I can't remember, but maybe the camera people knew. I think that may have been it. Because I'm only saying the camera people because they, you had to get certain
Get
shots.
the shots. Yeah. What a freaking moment. What was your thoughts and feelings when that happened?
I was happy for it. I was glad it happened because there was the stirrings of Jim Crockett trying to start something new, and ECW was going to be part of it, and that's where I thought I was really going to get let go. Because now you're dealing with Jim Crockett, now you're dealing with the big boys.
Yeah.
And that's where they're bringing in their own guys.
Yeah.
And because that one TV taping that they did do in New York for that show, for that supposed company that never happened.
Right.
I wasn't there. I wasn't invited. So
was Finnegan invited, or
I think John did them.
Okay.
I think John did do that. But then I was like, well, that's it. But and like when that happened, I was like, all right, now we're going to stand on our own.
Yeah.
And we're going to, I didn't see us going national as big as we did.
Mm-hmm.
I expected more travel, but more of a localized thing, kind of like, you know, we're going to be the old WWF territory, you know, up
Mm-hmm.
to Boston, over to Pittsburgh, down to Washington, and that,
Right.
you know, we wouldn't travel further than that.
And then you start going to Florida.
Yeah.
So, okay, what about like when that happens and things start to change? I mean, we talked about like how Goodhart had set a buzz in the industry. I mean, that just blew things out of the water. That was just a
Right.
completely another echelon.
Yeah.
So and the whole ECW thing at that time was, I mean, it was really catching fire, and that was just. Are you just saying to yourself like, oh, like this is like this is now like we're a real promotion, and this
Yeah.
is
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We went to Florida. Like, wow, this is cool. Um, you know, I thought we were a rock band.
yeah,
You know, now we're on tour. Um, I look at the whole, you know, lifespan of ECW, and I compare it to the lifespan of like punk rock
hmm
or or like the Seattle
yeah.
sound. You know, it ran. You know, it blew up and burned out.
You know, it's funny. Like I'd seen a quote from Bubba Ray the other day that I'd never seen before, and it was said something along the lines of pretty much that, where you know ECW did its thing and then died, and it shouldn't have been brought back. And you know, and it's been so many people have tried to resurrect the thing over and over, and I don't. It just can never happen again.
No.
There was that era of time, that place and time for for Paul, the talent, and everybody. You can't turn around and say, "Oh, because I have these letters now, and I'm restarting ECW." It's not the same. Everybody's 30 years older now. It just
Right.
without those people, without that talent, it can't be done no more.
And I also look at the social situation in the country at the time. You know,
Yeah.
you were looking at the Clinton regime and president. You know, hey, there's a party going on at the White House tonight. You
Right.
know,
Right.
and you know, and then the next presidency comes in, and they're, you know, they're after Stern for things that he says on TV, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh my God, they would come after us.
Yeah. Oh,
Some of
totally.
not only the things we said, but some of the things we did.
Yeah. So some of the people we brought in, like,
Yeah.
what did you Now here was something that I always thought, like, I would be there, and it seemed like everybody would come in and like brought their own refs. Like there was Pee Wee would come with Sabu. There was the other guy, Paul, I think his name was
Paul Richard. Yeah.
Paul Richard, great guy. It was like all of a sudden it's like we have like five refs. Like, and
Yeah.
I would think to myself, well, are they trying to push like Jim and John out? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like,
No, I never felt that with those guys coming in. Um, just because I felt that we were nothing against either one of them. Paul had experience from WWE. He had worked for them in
right.
New England, and he was friends with the Eliminators. That's when he came
Okay.
in.
Okay.
But Paul and I are still great friends. We just did a table together at WrestleCon for a couple of days.
Nice.
And always talked all the time. And like you said, Sabu brought Pee Wee in.
Right.
And that was a different situation too. Pee Wee was different style.
Yeah.
But I felt John and I have the similar style
Mm-hmm.
because John trained me. Very similar style, and I think it was important to the company, the style that we had, the way we react to things, and I think that we're a conduit between the wrestlers, our reaction, or getting the reaction that they're hoping for, and passing that on to the fans.
Right. What were in the ECW days? Um, some of your favorite matches that you look back on, you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I was actually in that match.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it, because I'm the luckiest boy in the world, because I worked some great matches, and I never thought I'd be doing something like working with some of the people that I did.
Right.
The first one that always comes to mind, and I also look at it as importance to the company.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one I always think of is the triple threat match between Funk, Sabu, and Shane Douglas.
Nice.
And it was a 60-minute time limit. And wow, the people that were there, I mean, those three, Sherry Martel. Holy crap, I got to work with Sherry Martel.
Right.
That one always comes to mind, because I thought that was the first important match for the company. Because at the time, tape trading was big, and all of a sudden there became a huge buzz about ECW because of that match.
That was the first three-way match, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, it went 60 minutes, no winner.
Yeah.
And so it was so talked about that tape trading blew up on our end. So I always think of that match. I skipped ahead for importance in the company to Sabu and Taz at Barely Legal. The build up between the two, not touching for 2 years, and that pressure cooker coming together, and the bell rang, boom, the match took off. I did both of those, and I think they're two very important matches for the company. After that, then they become matches that I had fun doing. And the first one that comes to mind is any of the take your pick ones that I did, Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko matches. Oh, what a pleasure those matches were.
Yeah.
They were great to work with. John and I would switch on and off. He'd have one night, I'd have the next night. Just that's the way it was.
I mean, you guys had the best seat in the house.
Yeah, we did. That's why I say I'm the luckiest boy in the world, because we did. We had the best seat in the house. But in having the best seat in the house like that, you also have to work. You can't just stand there and watch in awe. Like, oh my God, look at this. They're doing that. But then after that, it becomes matches that were fun that I remember. The FBI against the BWO. That working with the BWO was always fun.
Yeah.
And also it comes to guys that you worked with, Terry Funk, Tommy Rich, guys that I watched on TV. Not growing up, except for Terry. Because Tommy Rich is only 4 years older than me. I think I figured out that Tommy, myself, and Bill Ofonso were probably the oldest people in the company.
That's
funny. But yeah, just the ability to work with some amazing people. Guys that we started with that were still there, and some of the people they brought in, and unfortunately, Paul relied on me to be a good driver, which I was, and I happened to have a minivan, so I got stuck driving a lot of guys, a lot of the bigger names, and that was always fun. New conversations every time.
Sure. Was how about any of the crazy wild moments? Like, was there ever any moments when you thought to yourself, like, all right, this is getting like out of control, or a moment or like, maybe we should stop this? I think we've gone a little too far. Or I think this person's hurt.
There were a couple times where New Jack was gushing like a Monty Python movie.
Oh my God.
Where I was like, this is getting a little dangerous. And there were also times where I felt this isn't right. And of course, everyone comes up with the crucifixion. That was just not right. I'm not an overly religious person, and I wasn't really offended, but I said, a lot of people ain't going to like this. And in fact, if you look at pictures of it online, I'm carrying Sandman back on the cross, and I'm like in the front. And people gave me shit for doing it, and I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Leave him out there all night?
Yeah, right.
Somebody had to go get him, for Christ's sake. Maybe that was the wrong wording, but
yeah, that was some crazy freaking times. That was in like Kurt Angle was there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, and that's another thing. When after he says he's not, I'd like to get paid and get out of here, and you think, wow, that's really a missed opportunity that could have helped us.
Yeah.
I can't think of that many more what I would consider missed opportunities.
How about when like they did like the scaffold matches and all? Like they weren't like normal scaffold matches. They were like these crazily concocted contraptions that they put together. Like
we can't afford a real scaffold. So.
Yeah, but like wow.
But also you got to remember that heating unit was in the middle of the ceiling of the arena too.
Right.
So it's kind of difficult to put an actual scaffold up there. Although they did do it for JT and Dark Patriot. They did use a real scaffold for that.
Right.
But yeah, that was kind of weird. That was like a giant swing match.
The one with Dreamer and Brian Lee.
Brian Lee, yeah, they're like
that was scary.
That was really scary. I'm like, somebody's gonna pull the pipe's gonna come flying out of off the ceiling.
What do you now? So you were there till the very end.
Yeah, John and I are the only two people that were there from day one to the close of the company.
Were you on the road with them as well, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was on the road. John didn't really go on the road that much.
Okay.
The last year and a half. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. At the time I was working, the last couple of years of the company, I had been working for a heating and air conditioning company doing wholesale.
Okay.
Selling to the contractors. And I worked out, and ECW was having a pretty hefty schedule, a decent schedule. And I had worked out with the store manager, if I could work my 40 hours before I have to hit the road, that was okay.
Okay.
So I was working 40 hours in this warehouse store, selling air conditioners, maybe Monday to Thursday, and go on the road Friday and Saturday, because we would only run weekends.
Yeah.
And then come home Sunday and go back to work Monday. So I was running pretty crazy. And in fact, there were weekends where if Saturday was the arena show, I would work Saturday morning. I would take the Saturday morning shift at the store, and they would only bring one person in. So I would Northeast Philly, the Roman Catholic High School or whatever it was, we did one time, and then work the Saturday morning, and then went to the arena the next day. But for like the last year and a half of the company, myself, Jack Victory, and Sign Guy all did promotional stuff behind the scenes.
Right.
So Sign Guy and Jack would go to, let's just say, for example, Chicago, and promote the TV towns. So they would promote Chicago. I would fly with them and then take a connector to Peoria. And I would promote Peoria, because that would Peoria on Friday, Chicago on Saturday. Okay. Then on Friday, we would fly to wherever we had shows scheduled. Okay. So, we'd go from there to Buffalo and do Buffalo and say Cleveland, and then fly home Sunday morning and start off on, I'd go leave Tuesday morning to do start on the promotional stuff. So I'd be home for a day and a half to do my laundry and say hello to the family for the last year and a half.
Did you like that style of working with the business, or?
Yes and no. There were some things I didn't like about it, but I knew it was a foot in the direction that I probably needed to go, because I knew eventually it's a young man's game, and I'm not going to be in the ring forever. As my washer's buzzing downstairs with my ref gear being washed.
So did you think that they tried to go too big too soon? You're in the trenches. I mean, you, Lou, and Jack Victor, you're out there in the true trenches doing the promotions and stuff. Did you think it was too much too soon?
I don't know if it was too much too soon. Maybe the business plan wasn't right. Money could have been saved here and there.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to have. I don't mean this in any disrespect to anyone, but the lower level of the card could have been filled in by local guys, or you could have had somebody, a local guy do a job for somebody to get them over.
Yeah.
As opposed to bringing everybody in. So I think there was a lot of money spent on airfares and travel that maybe didn't need to be done. But you also had to keep up as the number 3 company in the country, which supposedly is what we were.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up with WCW and WWE. So people want to see everybody, people want to see the guys that they saw on TNN.
Right. When the it closes up, did you realize that was going to happen?
I didn't think it was going to happen. Even that last night that we were all in the ring, hugging and kind of saying goodbye, because we had shows on the schedule.
Right.
There was a pay-per-view scheduled. All right, now we'll take a break and get to the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we'll be at the pay-per-view and we'll hear good news from Fox.
Right.
Because Paul's out in California negotiating with Fox.
Yeah. Did now Paul owed lots of people money. Were you owed money, or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I'm going to say this, and I've never gone out there and said this. I saw a lot of people will make comments when I post some stuff about ECW or whatever. Most people always positive, but of course there's always going to be one or two, and they'll make a comment about Paul owing guys like yourself money, and I'm sure at the time, naturally, when you're owed money, you're going to be upset. It's especially
to this day, my wife can probably tell you to the penny what I'm owed.
I can imagine. But 20 years later, it's kind of like, I look at it as, sadly, it is a business, and businesses close up every day, and people are owed money, and if the money was there, I don't know Paul that well, but I don't think he'd be a person, and I don't think he stole money. I don't think he'd be a person not to pay the people that he owes money, from the business. I don't think he was going to go into his pocket and pay anybody. I don't know if he even had the money to do something like that.
No.
Because there was a lot of freaking money owed. So I think people need to. It's easier for me to say I wasn't owed nothing, but I think the fans. I'll put it this way: I think the fans should get over it. Like, you know what I mean? Like 20 years later, the fans are still angry about Paul owing money to people, and I'm like, it's business. It happens.
Yeah, I'm over it. Took a while, but I got over it.
Sure.
And there was money owed to me that I didn't expect. It was owed to me because I had been hurt. I was out for a few months with a torn ACL, and luckily I didn't need surgery, or I'd still be paying that.
Oh, shit.
But all the like medical bills and physical therapy and all that kind of stuff, like the company shut down, and like 2 weeks later, all the bills showed up at my front door.
Mm,
They were never paid.
of course. Um, Something we touched on early on was, then we start getting these things where it happened first locally. Promoters with a nice sized wallet come in. Hey, we're going to try to restart this, and we're going to start running the arena. I mean, it's probably happened a half dozen times over the years. Were any of them did you think were going to be legit contenders, or did you get to the point where you're just like, I've heard this song and dance before?
I worked for PWU.
Okay.
Right, a little bit. The only one I really worked for on a regular basis was Meanie with 3PW.
3PW, yeah.
Anybody else, I seem to have been a pariah to.
Wasn't there? Yeah, there was like a minute there. Like, it seemed like you were on the outs.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure everybody thought I was Paulie's stooge because I rode with Paul a lot.
Okay.
And I was office, even though I never went to New York for anything.
Right.
I was an office stooge, apparently. So I got blackballed for a lot of stuff. Nobody hired me, except Meanie did.
Right.
So for those who still think it or thought it, if I saw something, I didn't stooge. I didn't care less.
Right.
It wasn't my problem. I didn't own the company. I don't care what you're doing or what trouble you're into or what drugs or alcohol or whatever. Just because I didn't partake doesn't mean I'm a stooge.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, there was a lot of stuff I was not invited to.
Mm.
And I was hurt a little bit.
Sure.
Those running them who had been part of ECW were my friends.
Mm-hmm.
30 years later, it's a different story. Everybody's, buddies.
Yeah.
But, I've moved on. They've moved on, and it is what it is. I mean, I found a path to go down after ECW shut down to prevent me from shooting myself and everybody in the house.
Mm.
Because I was getting buggy. I had to get out and do something.
Well, I mean, like you said, you mean that last year and a half, you're full time with the company. You're in the office. You're on the road. You're doing promotions. I mean, you're doing everything, and then, boop.
Yeah.
So, like, how rough was that for you? I mean, mentally.
Well, 10 days later, Paul was on TV, and I'm like, "Ooh, my boss is on TV. Guess who's gonna get me a job somewhere?" Right. And still waiting. Never happened.
Have you talked to Paul since?
Oh yeah, well at the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
The 2 one-night stands, but that's been it. In fact, it was funny because I felt like I still had that stooge tag on me, mm-hmm. and I wasn't going to do the first one. I was like, I don't think so. And Paul called me and said, I want you there. And Tommy said, no, nothing will happen to you. You'll be all right. That's all water under the bridge.
So they knew about it then?
Well, I told them about it.
Okay.
I told them the situation, and they were like, no, not going to happen. And so when I got to the building, the first one, Paul comes up and gives me a huge hug on the stage. And I'm like thinking to myself, oh my God, don't let any of the boys see this. There he is, right up Paul's ass.
Too funny. So, okay. So, you end up doing the pay-per-view, the one night stands. Did you do the TNA one too, or
No, I wasn't invited to that one.
okay?
The story I had heard was they had everybody's name listed, and when wrestlers, referees, valets, managers, whatever, and they were in alphabetical order, and they only wanted 2 referees, so it was John Finnegan and Mike Keener, because they came before Molineaux. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it was a story that was conveyed to me.
Okay, interesting, very interesting.
Because I think Terry Taylor was the one who was making the call, so he didn't know anybody.
Right.
Especially us 3 referees. He didn't know us from Adam.
Right. So, what the 2 WWE one night stands? Did you think at any point like maybe I might get a job out of this, or?
A little bit with the second one. There was no talk after the first one. There was no talk of doing anything else. We thought this is our goodbye to the fans that they deserve.
Right.
So I was okay with it, and but then when I got the call for the second one, and I spoke to Dreamer, and he said, "Yeah, we're going to restart the company, and we want you to be part of it. We want you at every show, blah, blah, blah." Okay. So we do the pay-per-view, and Tuesday we did TV in Trenton.
Okay.
With SmackDown. And it was there all day, and nothing in the way of talking about being a part of the program, other than working it. And then the story changed. Then it became, we want you at every show that you can get to. Okay. So the next week was Albany, New York. And I was like, well, I can get to Albany. So I went up to Albany, and same situation, stood around, sat in catering, bullshit. Did a match.
Okay.
Nothing. And then it became, we'll call you and let you know when we need you. Okay. The next week, I'm sorry, no, they were still at the point of be at the shows that you can make. The next week was West Virginia.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I'm not driving to West Virginia. We were being paid as extras. We weren't being paid any quality money.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, not worth taking 2 days off to do this.
Yeah.
So I didn't go. Then it became, we'll call you when we need you. Well, the next week was the TV taping, the thing they did at the arena, and then they were at the Wells Fargo 4th of July.
Okay.
Didn't get a call for either one of them.
Oh.
And I've never been one to beg for work.
Right.
That's why people didn't see me for 15 years. So I didn't bother calling because I figured, well, they're just going to tell me to come on over and see what's what. And I thought, well, I've got a business outside of wrestling that I'm making enough money to keep a roof over my family. I'm not putting up with the bullshit anymore, and didn't go to the Philadelphia either show. Was a little hurt.
Sure.
Because, we're in the home of ECW, and even if I were to, just come out and wave or, whatever.
Yeah.
So I said I was a little hurt by that, but I don't think a big corporation is looking at things that way.
Yeah.
Maybe Tommy would have if he was the one who made the decisions. So that is what it is, and that was the end of ECW for me.
Did you have any interactions with Vince at all, or?
The first pay-per-view had not really an interaction with him, but had the ability to sit behind him because where the gorilla position was, we were right on the edge of the stage,
Right.
and the referees hung there, ready to go for the next match.
Right.
So that, and it was just being able to listen to him, tell Cactus what to say, or things like that.
That something like that has to be a cool experience.
Yeah, it's a look at the business that maybe I've never seen before. Because
Yeah.
with ECW, any production was always done in a truck.
Yeah.
And referees were always ready, curtain side, ready to go out if need be.
Right.
Because you have to remember, with the ECW pay-per-views, we never worked with anything in our ears.
Mm.
We always had got our hand signals from timekeepers.
Yeah. So the ECW era has ended in your career. Did you think you were done at that point?
No, because when the original ECW ended, I said I got to find something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, I'm gonna shoot somebody. And it's gonna be somebody in the house, or it's gonna be me. So the Monster Factory was 10 minutes away, where it was set up at the time in Westville, New Jersey.
Okay.
So I went out there. I made a call, and they were running some local shows.
Was Larry still involved at the time?
Larry was just coming back because he had been sick.
Okay.
He had his cancer incident.
Okay.
So he was just coming back, and it was Ed Atlas who was really running the things for Larry there.
Okay.
So I went and everybody talked, and said, hey, why don't you come on board and you can help us promote the shows and help around with helping training the referees and things like that. So I did. That's where I went. And we were in the place we were in Westville was a storefront. So they had rings built to the floor with absolutely no give at all.
Ooh.
And they were 10 by 11.
Oh.
Just because that was what would fit in the building.
Oh, geez.
They were and they would run kids parties and all that kind of stuff. But at the time when I went, Tank Tolan was there.
Okay.
Who went on to be James Dick on the SmackDown program, and also Cliff Compton was there, who was Deuce. No, he was Domino. I'm sorry, he was Domino, and Deuce and Domino with Jimmy's son.
Okay.
And we helped them get there. So I got that feather in my cap. I didn't train them, but I helped them get there. Also, at that
I was going to say, another one I kept seeing come up when I start Googling your name is Sheamus.
Yeah, I was just going to say, at that same time, this Irish kid shows up and wants to train, and so we started training Sheamus. And like I said, I'm a referee. I bump like shit. Always have, always will. And so I really didn't have anything to do with his training, except being able to observe and say, hey, you need to fix this or fix that, and somebody would show him how to fix it.
Right.
But the one piece of advice that I did give him was, your visa's about to end up. Go home.
Okay.
Because if you run into visa problems and you do make it big, you're gonna have a hard time getting back.
Right.
And Larry was hot because he knew he was gonna make a star out of him. But I'm like, you got to do this legally,
Yeah.
And Larry just saw money signs.
Sure.
Where like I said, if he had been caught in a visa issue, he wouldn't have been allowed back in the country. Mm-hmm. Especially then, because it was, I guess we were still around 9/11 and not being too far off from happening. So as Simon Diamond always says, only in wrestling. Shit happened, and Ed and I went off in one direction, and Larry went with someone else in another direction. Larry, of course, keeps the Monster Factory name. In the meantime, we had moved into a nice little warehouse in Belmar, just outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Right off of 42. It was a beautiful site, beautiful place, because if you come from Philly to see shows, you come over the Walton Bridge, and it's another 5 minutes down the road.
Right.
So we were running shows, but not under a Monster Factory banner. It was Monster Factory Presents OTW, Old Time Wrestling.
Okay.
And we were trying to bring back an older style of wrestling. That 80s, not Hogan hokey style, but more of an NWA type of thing.
Sure.
So we kept the name, kept the building. Eventually, we had to get out of the building because the roof leaked like Niagara Falls.
Oh, jeez.
And we're running shows, and if you can find tapes of OTW in Belmar, we're running shows, and I'm running around bailing water out the back door on nights that it rained. But in the meantime, when we were there, we had a guy by the name Luis Martinez show up, who now is known as Damian Priest.
Okay.
And QT Marshall was one of the guys who showed up then. So I never say I trained them to get to wherever they are, but I helped get them there in one form or another. Whether they recognize it or not, it's up to them.
Sure.
So we end up moving to a place in Williamstown. Nice little warehouse. Ceiling's a little higher, but a little smaller building. And
doesn't leak.
And it doesn't leak. And we were running shows for a few years there. And we were probably, for students, this was a great opportunity because we were running probably 40 shows a year.
Wow.
Between every Saturday, except in the summertime because it was god awful hot, and a monthly nighttime show, or a monthly Saturday night show.
Those shows are so important. Like, when the early days of ECW, me and a bunch of the boys used to go up to Iron Mike Sharp's place up in Bricktown, New Jersey, because he used to run them shows every other week, and this way we can get a ring time in front of a crowd.
Yeah. That was an opportunity, and with as running that many shows, we were able to tell us we were able to set up storylines for the guys. So yeah, that really worked out pretty good. We helped guys get to places they wanted to. One in particular, Brian Johnson, now goes as the Mecca Brian Johnson, and he was in Ring of Honor.
Okay.
And he was very important to Ring of Honor during the pandemic. He moved down to Baltimore, would stay in the hotels, that they were only allowed, they weren't allowed to go out. You had to get, vaccinated, or you had to get tested every day. And they did, a couple weeks worth of TV, and that, to the building, or the hotel room to the building, and that was it. And I think since people that have taken over Ring of Honor have missed an opportunity. He's very good on the microphone, a very good wrestler.
So OTW, how long did that go on for?
Let's see. So really, from 2001, when it was still associated with the Monster Factory, when the match wise, till 17, 18, till the end of the pandemic.
Oh, really?
Just before the pandemic ended, yeah. People come and go in schools and things like that.
Sure.
And Ed Atlas had moved back to Canada to be close to his son, who was starting a family.
Okay.
And that left me being the only adult in the room, which is fun when you're worrying about you have to pay the rent, make sure the rent's taken care of at the school, and your own rent, and getting students and running shows and everything else that you have to do for running a business. Make sure we have hot dogs and rolls. And we have soda. And
Huge money makers right there.
The big money maker was the popcorn machine. But so you're the only adult in the room, and I mentioned Brian earlier. Brian became my trainer, and he was a big, huge help. And in 2017, I had a heart attack. And
now I'm trying to figure out how you said early on before we went live. You said there's a fun. He said, Jim says to me, "You want a funny story? Ask me about my heart attack." I'm trying to figure out how this is a funny story.
Yeah. Well, a few things that evolved into the night of my heart attack. A few weeks earlier, our dog.
Did the business cause the heart attack?
Sure. But yeah, the stress of the business, and our dog had passed away. We had for 15 years, and that day, even though we knew it was coming, my wife got laid off from her job. So I said, well, let's go out and go to the local watering hole and just relax.
Yeah.
So we went out and ordered, I had a beer and I ordered a sandwich, which was a cheeseburger with brisket and bacon.
Okay.
Never had a problem with anything like that before. So have a nice night out, come home, go into bed. I'm like, the sandwich isn't going down. It's not right. And so I went to bed, woke up a couple hours later. It's still there. Something, it's not going down. So I'm fidgeting around. My wife finally gets up and says, "I'm going to sleep on the couch. You can't keep still." And so we're at like 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like, this is not going down. And she starts asking me the standard questions, how's your arm feel? This, your back, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, it's just still here. It's not digesting properly. I said, the only other thing that hurts is my jaw is really stiff. Said, idiot. That's a sign you're having a heart attack.
Wait, what? I never heard that one.
I never did either, but she knew it. And stiffness in the jaw, in the neck and the jaw area, is a sign of a heart attack. So,
whoa.
So we're like, okay, what do we do? Right. Well, let's call an ambulance. Now I'm up and walking around. I'm getting dressed. I'm going to the hospital. I'm putting my shoes on. She says, do you want me to call an ambulance? And I said, yeah, go ahead. I turn around and she went in the bathroom to brush her teeth. Well, because she's going with me too. So finally I'm calling. And I'm calling them. I think I'm having a heart attack. So we gave him all the information, and luckily I'm a half a block off a main road, and the cop was set up there for his speed trap, and the cop was there like this, and I'm still going. This sandwich isn't going down, and so they put me on a gurney, and they're trying to gurney me out, and they almost dropped me going down the steps. I'm like, guys.
After all your ECW days, you were never gurneyed, and now you are.
Right. And I'm like, guys, let me meet you at the bottom of the steps because you're going to kill me before I get there. But yeah, so I went to the hospital, and I had a 99% blockage going in to my heart and a 90% blockage coming out. A 2-part blockage coming out. So went into the cath lab and they went through my wrist. They didn't go through my leg, and I was awake the whole time and watched on the video.
Oh my God!
You see this thing going through your vein, and you could feel it. If you go like this to your arm, that's what it felt like. And they're like, okay, here's your first blockage, and while we're here, we'll get rid of those other two, and by 7:30 in the morning, like I said, this started at 3:30. By 7:30 in the morning, I'm in an intensive care room, or I'm sorry, cardiac care room. And wow. It was a big glass door, and they hooked me up with a monitor that was just, to me, it wasn't hooked up to a big machine.
Okay.
And so I'm able to get up and walk around. And I'm like, this is a Friday morning now. And I'm like, excuse me, when am I going to get out of here? And they're like, sir, you just had a heart attack. You're going to be monitored for several days. Oh, no. I got 2 shows this weekend.
I got wrestling shows.
I got a 2-day tournament I'm running at my building, and I cannot miss it. Well, the phone.
Now, was that your full-time gig at the time?
No. I have a business. I have a courier service.
Oh, okay.
That is my Monday through Friday gig that I still have. I own the company.
Okay.
So I got 2 shows this weekend. They're like, no, you're not going anywhere. And I was constantly thinking of a way to sneak out because I was like the only patient in the room that wasn't hooked up to something that beeped constantly. In fact, they moved me to a private room, and I hoped they had moved me back to the cardiac room because there was a guy in the hall across from me. Turn this machine off. I can't sleep. Shut it off, nurse.
Oh, God.
But luckily the shows went off without me there, and that's my heart attack situation.
Still wanting to be at the shows.
Gotta be. It's in the blood.
It literally.
Yeah. So the pandemic comes around, and I finally moved out of the building. I just couldn't maintain it anymore. And actually, Matt Tremont, who owns H2O Wrestling,
okay,
they do a lot of deathmatch stuff and things like that. He's in the building now.
Okay,
he took over my lease. So we found 2 buildings that we could run, and we did 9 shows a year for a couple of years. And the one show that wasn't in one of these 2 buildings was a show for the Veterans Organization, the Veterans Organization at Stockton University down near Atlantic City. And they were the shows that I was the happiest with, because for the size of the room, they were set up for 350 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we sold it out.
That's awesome.
I lucked out because I reverted back to people that I knew lived in the area and could help me get people in the seats, and one of them was Tank Tolan, because he was from Atlantic City, or in the Atlantic City area. And when I told him it was for Veterans Organization, he goes, we'll fill the place up. My dad's the president of the VFW in Margate. Nice. So we filled it up, and I'm really happy with those shows that we did. I thought we did really good for those. But so it got to be just like too much, being the only adult in the room, and me personally not trusting a lot of people to make sure things get done.
Yeah.
So I was, I would pick up the rental truck and go to the storage area and have a crew help load up the ring and take it to the show and unload it and set it up and have the show and do everything in reverse. And I'd leave the house at 9:00 in the morning and get home at 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, I'm way too old for this bullshit.
Yeah.
So I shut the company down and had someone who was going to buy the ring. I think, only happens in wrestling. Things fell through. and ended up selling it to the guys who now run ECWA.
Okay.
And when I sold it to them, we were loading it up in their truck. They said, "Hey, how'd you like to referee?" Like, well, I haven't done it in 15 years, because the one thing I learned from Paul was let the guys have the show. Show's not about you. So right. I was not really in front of the crowd. I'd be in front of the crowd every week saying, "Hey, thanks for coming. Join us next week. And we're going to be running a special for, $5 off for people who have red hair." The old hokey promotions finding a way to get people in the door. So I said, well, I don't know. And they said, well, Finnegan works with us, and you could work with John again. And I was like, okay. And it was their Super 8 was coming up, so I knew it was something important.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I did to get back in the ring, and I've been reffing on a fairly regular basis ever since. Not just referee, but one company I'm their chief matchmaker, where I come out and say, well, if you guys want to go at it, let's make it a match, and things like that. And actually working for we mentioned earlier, Johnny Cashmere, he's got a small company.
Yeah.
And I'm a manager there.
I was going to say, is Jimmy Fortune going to make a way back at any time?
No, nobody would know me as Jimmy Fortune, so we're coming up with I've got some things spinning in my head that I'm going to spew for this, because I was their commissioner, and now I'm an evil manager.
Evil, very evil. I'll tell you what, when I because I knew there was like I don't know what it was all about or whatever. Supposedly you whatever you did or whatever. When I saw the picture of you and Finnegan from ECWA, I was like, finally, this makes me happy. I was very happy to see you guys back together and you back in the fold.
Yeah, and Joe's there too, because Joe works for ECWA. So there's actually a picture of the three of us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Joe's not in a referee shirt.
Come on, Jigs. Speaking of, I know he just said, "Hey, how you guys doing?"
Well, we were doing good
until Jigster came along. Let's see. We were just talking all about OTW. Jeremy said Jim was running OTW, not that far from me.
Yeah, we were, like you said, we were in Belmar for a while, and then moved out to Williamstown. It's funny that where we were in Belmar is now a weed distribution place. Could have been in the Monster Factory days too.
This is a new person. Glade Mamat says, "Legend, my favorite ref. I'm a fan, yo."
Thank you, yo.
Nick Infante, hi folks. What was the best match you refereed in ECW?
It's all a perspective thing. I'll go between, like they said, the triple threat match between Funk and Shane and Sabu, because it was so important to the company. But working with Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko was such a pleasure and such fun.
Sure. All right, we have another newbie. Pyrus Wrestling. I have 5 questions for Jim. Here we go. Wow. They're conducting an interview. Any ECW One Night 2005 original plans and your Mike Awesome powerbomb moment? I wish New Jack was there in ECW One Night Stand 2005 in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Well, I don't think New Jack was going to be there. Yeah, I took a powerbomb from Mike Awesome. And if you watch it, if you go back and watch the video of it, no one knew about it except for the two of us. and they had to show it on a replay. And he swore to me that he was healthy enough to not winded enough or exhausted enough or any issues, that he had no problem picking me up. Because when I told him, when he first came to me with the idea, I said, "Look, I'm a fat piece of shit who can't jump." He goes, "Don't worry, I'll get you." And almost broke my neck.
Oh,
if
shit.
You go back and watch it. Yeah, I had no ups. And I was very lucky that night.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, we were the only two knew about it because, again, under the fear of being called a stooge, I didn't want to tell someone in the office that, "Hey, Mike wants to tower bomb me. Is that okay?"
Yeah. What was the iconic picture of you and Finnegan doing this in the ring? What was that?
That was from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Or just outside of Pittsburgh, Monaca. And it was the November to Remember, the first November to Remember pay-per-view we did out there.
Okay.
And it came from a whole series of things between Jeff Jones and myself and John. And then, so, John and I hit the post. Oh, we double DDT Jeff. That's what it was. We double DDT him,
okay.
stand and cut the ECW pose, Fonzie came up from behind, double nut shots us. We go down into each corner out of the way, and while Fonzie's standing there, that's when Beulah nailed him. So that's where that's from.
I remember seeing it. I saw it one time, probably when it happened, and I was like trying to find it online, like what the hell it was. I sent Tom Mishnick a message. I'm like, "Do you remember what happened?" He's like, "No."
Yeah, that's kind of an iconic picture. We just had WrestleCon, and we did John Could Only Make Saturday, so we had copies of that made up to sell, and we both signed them. That's fun. I enjoyed that night.
That's awesome.
John says that's probably the best pay-per-view we did.
I can't wait to get John on here.
I can't wait to watch it.
My initial plan though, like I was trying to wait, because I was trying to go along with, how I'm watching it, but I got to just start intertwining people but all right. Second question from Pyrus Wrestling. Jim, will you ever do an RF video shoot?
No.
Boom.
Next question.
Mic drop. Solves that problem. Of all the ECW fans who later on got involved with the company in one way or another, who does Jim feel best helped the industry after ECW stopped running shows? And this is from More Than SEO, Matt from the ECWWrestling.com website.
So someone who was a fan but wasn't part of ECW, and it's probably going to end up being, even though I'm not a fan of the shit that goes on there, it's probably Tony Khan. He was in the crowd for a lot of the arena shows, and
was he?
Yeah. I that's what I hear. I hear he was at the shows. So he wasn't part of ECW. He was there as a fan. I don't mean that fans weren't part of ECW, but
right.
He wasn't a working gear of ECW. And yeah, from what I'm told, he was at shows. So I would have to say it's got to be Tony Khan.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good question too. All right. Third question from Pyrus Wrestling. Memories of the New Jack and Vic Grimes incident at ECW Living Dangerously in March 2000. Did you do that match?
I didn't do that match. I was sitting in the bleachers watching it, and the fall happened, and I was like, "Oh crap!" And I never thought I ran down bleachers that fast in my life to get down there. And by the time I got down there, I think they'd already had him on a stretcher, and you can't do that much. Let the people who should be there making sure he's okay doing it. So, but I was right there. Once they had him on a stretcher and were taking him to the hospital, I was there. But yeah, I saw the whole thing from probably almost at the level that they were
right
on the fall.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a. Speaking of scaffold matches,
Yeah,
that was a scary one.
I haven't seen that in years. That's something I have to go back and watch. A lot of stuff I haven't seen in years.
Fourth question. Memories of the no rope barbed wire match between Sabu and Funk at Born to Be Wired in '97.
That was the only barbed wire match in ECW history that I did not do. Pee Wee worked that match, and that was as a request from Sabu, because he wanted to. He entrusted Sabu. Not that he ever didn't trust us, but he trusted Pee Wee a little bit more to help him if he got into a bad spot. And he did. and I guess Pee Wee kind of was able to help him.
Did you like doing barbed wire matches?
I didn't mind them.
Huh.
I got nowhere near it.
Yeah.
You crazy? I did one. I've done one recently where I didn't touch any of the barbed wire, and climbing out, I got bit by the barbed wire. It's grabbed my shirt. Oh, God damn it!
All right, fifth and final question, Jim. Were you ever approached by WWE to be a ref in a WWE version of ECW in 2006? And we also do an autobiography book. We already talked about the ECW situation.
Yeah, no, they never offered a deal. And from what I understand, the deal that they would have offered, I probably would have turned down. Because, like I said, I had my own company outside of wrestling, my own business outside of wrestling, and I was making as much, if not more.
Right.
So yeah, autobiography. I forgot too much.
But was it tough though? Like going from, you're in ECW, you're on TV, and then you're going back to like real life.
It was. I had taken a job at a warehouse that I thought would have been easy to handle. It was for a hobby place.
Okay.
And they do online. They had a store, but they also, their main moneymaker was online orders.
Okay.
So I had a section of their warehouse to be in charge of, make sure everything was in order, in the right spots. Everything had a number, blah, 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 the whole bit. Even sweeping the floor in my area. And I thought I was going to kill everybody in the place. Because I had been on the road by myself for so long. I was ready to shoot everybody. And even to the point of the guy who I was near the dock, and the guy who was in charge of the dock was in charge of the radio. And he was a very religious guy.
Don't fuck with Jim's music.
No problem. I would have even listened to it if he had played religious music, but he was playing sermons. And I just no, I can't do this. And I got it. I quit. And I found a job. In fact, it was someone that my wife worked with. It was her husband had a courier service and dealing with attorneys. And so I started working for him. And I worked for him for quite a while. And there was an account that he had over here in New Jersey. He was based out of Philadelphia. Account over here in New Jersey. And he just didn't want to run he didn't want to run in New Jersey. And he said, you want it? And I was like, yeah, because it was 5 minutes from my house.
Right.
And I've been working with this company, this law firm for 20 years now.
Wow.
And it keeps me from getting thrown out of the house. So I'm happy.
Thanks for the show. Alex from Spain. That's freaking awesome. Peace out. I'm going to sleep. Well, thank you, Alex. You're a newbie. He's a newbie to the show.
Cool. I met a couple of people from Spain at WrestleCon this weekend.
That's awesome.
2 weekends ago.
So how was that whole experience?
That was pretty neat. I've done a couple of cons and fan fest, things like that. That was neat because you just meet people who are still just discovering ECW and never gotten it before because of the cock. And that's how they see the network, and they see it now. So and people from Spain, Germany, England, Northern Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, Japan. It was pretty neat.
That's cool. How was it? Like really packed?
Friday was really packed, and luckily where I was, there was a hallway. There were 3 main rooms, three ballrooms, and I was on the second floor in a hallway, but it led into the ballroom. So if you're leaving or coming from the ballroom, you're passing by my table. So nice. It was pretty steady.
Nice.
For the first 2 days. Sunday was kind of late, and I left early anyway because I had a show to go do. So. And then I worked one other show. It was the Super Show from the WrestleCon people.
Okay.
They did a show Thursday at the arena. So actually before that, Mike Johnson from PW Insider was giving tours of the arena. And I went along and told little funny anecdotes as we went along.
Was that the one that Meanie was doing too?
No, Meanie did his Wednesday night.
Okay.
And this was Thursday afternoon. So we did those Thursday afternoon, and I was going to stick around for for the show that I was doing, which wasn't supposed to start till 7. But in the meantime, there was a Stardom show, the Japanese women show. So I stuck around and watched that, and then we did ours. And then after us, I left after our show. After that, Jeff Hardy was doing a concert. So they were just, people in and out all day long.
Wow.
But yeah, so I did a show Thursday, and I worked Sunday for Johnny Cashmere. He usually runs Sunday afternoons anyway.
Okay.
So Sunday afternoon at 2:30, match is done in time for everybody to get back to the link for WrestleMania. It worked out really well.
Nice. 2300 Media Network. Hey, Jim. Tim Mendeville. Hey, Jim.
Hey, everybody.
Nick Infante. What was working with Todd Gordon and Paul Heyman like in ECW?
Oh, fine. Todd had been around for a while, and Paul was new, but got to know Paul pretty well, and so yeah, I had no problems with either one of them.
Badmouth Todd, come on, badmouth him. This way he can call me. And
no, I can't, because you know what, Todd helped me out. I had gotten laid off from my job at when I started it was RCA, but by the time they closed, it was RCA, then it was GE, and then it was Martin Marietta over in Camden, and I had gotten laid off, and Todd gave me the opportunity to do some things behind the scenes for ECW. So I appreciate that every day.
That's awesome. Memories from ECW Barely Legal 97, which was it yesterday? It was 27 years.
Yeah, it was 27 years ago yesterday.
Yeah.
Other than just being happy to be there, thinking, I'll never do this again. They had us come in and check in at like 12:30 in the afternoon. They wanted to make sure everybody was in town.
Right.
So everybody checked in. They go, okay, go have dinner, go take a nap, whatever you want to do. I stuck around. I wanted to watch them put up the lights. I wanted to watch them test the sound. I wanted them to watch them, make sure the chairs worked, the bleachers were in place. Because again, who knows if I'll ever do this again.
How different of an experience was that? Like doing pay-per-view compared to normal?
It was crazy, because the TV, the way we did TV was just film everything and then it gets edited.
Mm-hmm.
And this was live. This was gotta go. This is do it now, and that's the way it is.
Right.
And it better be right.
Let's see. Tom Mishnick. Didn't Paul Richards with the New England show with? Oh wait, I don't. That was probably when we were talking about
Paul. By the way, it's Paul Richard, not Richards. But yeah, Paul was part of the New England promotion office. So he ran. When he stopped reffing, he ran the. He promoted the shows for us up there in like Worcester and at Webster Hall. And
cool.
I got one coming up. But yeah, he promoted the shows up there for Revere.
Okay.
Dog park and all. Love going there, because I always won a couple of bucks on a dog.
The big deal about ECW going into 97 was the move to pay-per-view. Had they didn't go to pay-per-view, they were going to be out of business by the summer. Do you think that's true?
Unless they thought in a different pattern, different light. I thought the company, even when it shut down, I thought that the possibility of going to WWE, going to Vince McMahon and saying, how about ECW becoming a territorial company and a training company for you?
Right.
Would have worked.
Yeah.
I think it would have worked. Cut down on the travel, move us to just, being from Boston to Baltimore.
Well, even like, there was, there's the last couple of years that new era of ECW where you have Carino now, the younger guys, Carino, Danny Doring, Chetty, Roadkill, Like that whole new crop of guys, Kid Cash, I thought was amazing. I still thought the quality of shows was freaking phenomenal.
Yep, you had York and Matthews who were killing it. I thought we could have, and with the developmental idea, we were using guys in WWE that weren't being used already. And I mean, we had Furness and LaFon. Holy crap. You ever see some of the stuff they did in All Japan, those two guys? How the hell did we work with them? I mean, that's even a throwback back to TWA, because that show that never happened.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the two of those guys against Williams and Gordy.
Yeah.
And I've told John this before. I would have shoved him in a closet to have not been found so I could ref that match. He would still love All Japan, older stuff from the 80s. Just big, huge guys beating the living crap out of each other.
Let's see. At the same time, if the pay-per-view failed to hit a certain buy rate, it would have killed ECW instantly.
Yeah, there was a buy rate we had to hit.
Really? Okay.
I don't know if it would have killed us or not, but they would have said, nah, no more pay-per-views.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know none of that. Speaking of money owed, me and my front row seatmates paid for the next set of Club ECW, knowing we'd never see shows. Hope the money went to the boys.
No. Not this one.
That's interesting though. I wonder how many people like Tom did that.
Well, a lot of people didn't do that because I think they had been screwed over before. Maybe they had bad feelings because Joel had sold tickets to a show that didn't happen. I'm sure they got their money back for that, but I don't know how much of a pain in the ass it was.
Right.
But yeah, I think when the Club ECW came around, I think a lot of people were gun shy of it.
Turns out ECW in 97 was slowly reaching the peak, with 98, 99 being the peak years for ECW.
Yeah, they definitely were. Yeah, because, end of 99 into 2000 was when we got TNN. We thought that was going to be the saving grace for the company. They were on a network.
Right.
People, I had family on the other side of the country who could finally watch what I was talking about.
And,
we know what that was. It was just a trial for WWE.
Freedom Speech, another newbie. 420 Smoke.
Okay.
All right. There you go. Puff it if you got it.
958.
And the last one we have, back to Barely Legal. Attendance was 1170. The buy rate was approximately 104,000 buys.
Yeah, I think we had to. I don't think 100,000 is the number, but I think it was something like that. But I know we obviously made the buy rate that they wanted because they invited us back.
Right.
And they moved us to 8 o'clock. Because you remember the Barely Legal was at 9 o'clock.
Right. Okay.
They were afraid of what we were going to do. Like an hour would make a difference.
Yeah, that's stupid. Why would they try to...
Part of our lure.
Wow. Well, that wasn't too bad, Jim, was it?
Yeah, see, I told you to be out of here before.
Almost 2 hours.
We're doing a marathon here.
You didn't beat Stevie Richards, but you beat Zanoli. I'm pretty sure you beat Zanoli.
Okay. Let's see what John does.
Yeah, well, I think John we can do 4 hours with.
Yeah, John has a storied history even before ECW.
See, and I know nothing of it. Like I know a little bit of his TWA stuff, but there's a lot of stuff I got to dissect with John.
Yeah, John knows more stuff than I do about the beginning of the company, because I think he was involved a little bit more with the meetings with Todd and Bob and Larry. And by the way, speaking of Bob's name's the name I always say that should be on a banner hanging up at the arena.
Absolutely. Bob will be on here soon. Trust me.
Good.
Yeah.
You got to wait for hockey season to finish.
Oh, yeah, of course. We're almost there. Come on. Well, hey, if the Flyers don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, but he's still got the rink to take care of. So
Yeah, that's true. That whole hockey connection. It's too funny. Well, Jim, this has been great, man. Thank you. It was great catching up with you. Great seeing you.
Good to be seen. Good seeing you too.
And the plan is I'm going to do a lot more of these, and I want to start doing interactive ones where I start intertwining people and doing group ones, and I want to do a group TWA one and some group ECW ones and some interesting ones and have some fun with this. And
you make me have to work to watch some of this stuff to remember it, because half of it I probably forgot more than I can remember.
I'm sure we all have. How about did you have to take any chair shots? Any?
Oh yeah.
Who was your worst?
I took a chair shot from a fan once.
What?
We were in Chicago. This is how crazy the people are in Chicago.
Okay.
We were in Chicago, and Joel Gertner was cutting a promo, one of his classic, Dudley promos in the ring. And of course, everybody's throwing anything they can get their hands on. And all of a sudden, boom, hitting the back of the head with a chair. Somebody threw a chair from out in the crowd.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, holy crap. God damn it. I wanted to go out and beat somebody, but I'm like, I'm going to stand here and no sell it. So I stood there and listening to Joel, and all of a sudden I realized there's a trickle down the back of my head. And it cut me open. I'm like, now I'm mad. And I started realizing that, wait a minute, I'm the only one in the ring. Where the hell's everybody else? And it was like the scene from Slapshot. Bub and Devon are out in the crowd looking for the guy.
Any tables you going through?
No, never went through any of the tables.
911 chokeslam?
I mean, oh my God, yes. I took two. One I actually got hurt on. I don't know how I got hurt. Did something to my knee or my ankle. I forget which. How
the hell do you hurt your knee or ankle taking a chokeslam?
It was the way I took off. I wasn't ready for him to go, and he went, and like my knee was in the wrong place and it twisted. Believe me, I just blew my knee out doing a regular thing around the house. So
oh jeez.
But anyway, here's the classic chokeslam that probably nobody knows. Do you remember the night Santa Claus threw stuff out to the crowd and was chokeslammed by 911?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh.
I got into the back. I came into the building. I get in the back, and there's a Santa suit sitting on a chair. I went around and said hello to everybody and come back to where my bag is, and there's a Santa suit sitting there. I'm like, what's this for? And they're like, it's for you. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because it'll fit. But the problem I had with the chokeslam, I had the full Santa outfit on. And I go out and I'm throwing stuff out to the crowd, waving the whole bit. And he goes to he grabs me, and we go up, and I post. And as I'm coming down, all of a sudden, the hat and the beard and everything start falling off. And I go like this, grab everything. It was just an odd landing. But yeah, I've taken the 911 choke slam.
That's funny. Good times. They really.
But I was there for all the tables and the flames and everything. I always made sure everyone was safe. I made sure there was a water bottle, open water bottle under the ring when I knew Balls was going to end up getting caught on fire, just to make sure I could put them out. I think that's another thing that John and I did where maybe a lot of guys don't do, is we make sure we have safety stuff around. But we're there to make sure the guys are safe, and not everybody thinks of that. They think it's someone else's job. Well, even if it's not, I'm thinking of it anyway, because I want to make sure my friends are safe.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, thank you for your service, sir.
Thanks for having me on. This has been fun.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I miss you. I miss everybody. It's been amazing. It's been a hell of a ride, a hell of a hell of a thing we got to definitely experience.
Yeah, it was a crazy family, but I stand and fight toe to toe with them.
Absolutely.
If anybody said something derogatory about my family.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Jim, I'll let you go. I know you want to go to sleep.
I've been asleep for the last 15 minutes. You just don't know it.
Come on now. Your eyes are still open. You can't fool me.
Barely.
All right. Hey, everybody, make sure, Jim, where's the best place to find you?
At Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. It's at Jim Molineaux, and it's all one word, and it's all small case. So it's JIMMOLINEAUX. You can find me there. You can find me on Facebook. I have parody T-shirts at tpublic.com. Just punch in their search Extreme Referee, and the shirts will come out. Order yourself an EC Ref and W shirt. Get it?
Jim's like the only ref that has marketed himself.
No.
Come on.
There are other guys who have.
There is, but not like you.
Well,
Hey. And he's also available for, signings, conventions, wrestling shows, whether it's a referee or manager.
Yeah, and trust me, I'm kind of thinking I might be cutting out refereeing pretty soon. I'm 63, and the knees are not all that. I'm like the Tin Man who needs oil in his knees.
Getting up from them false finishes as getting rougher.
Yeah, they are. They really, honestly are. So
I can't even.
I'm thinking about it.
I can't even get on my knees. If I go to get on my knees, I'm done. I'm like, how the fuck can I?
Yeah,
my knees
night,
are shot.
Every night after dinner, my dog wants me to get on the floor to play, and I'm like, oh, please, I can't do it. I might be able to get on the floor, but I don't know if I can get up.
Yeah, right. Getting down is so easy. Getting up is a whole other story. Too funny.
All right, see me get in and out of the ring. That's even funnier.
I'm gonna have to search YouTube now. All right, everybody, have a great night. If you haven't already, go down below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you ring that bell, because we're going to be back hopefully next week with somebody, but we're going to be back with a lot more of these Chewin' the Fat interviews, and React and Chill will be dropping a new episode tomorrow night. So ring the bell, subscribe, and we will see you soon. And remember, stay extreme.